It began as a dare no sane person would touch, but I was arrogant enough to bite. Break into the school system, steal the registrar's password, that was it. On the surface, easy. Change a few grades, erase a few absences, rewrite the record like none of us had ever slipped up. The prize? 6 months of free gas. The penalty? 3 months of humiliation, dressed as a girl and paraded through every weekend party like some cruel carnival trick. A joke with teeth. And the truth was, if the school caught you, the dress would be the least of your nightmares. Naturally, I couldn't resist. Cocky bravado was practically stitched into my DNA. The idea of free fuel for half a year had me grinning like an idiot. Wearing a dress never even crossed my mind as a real possibility. I knew I could win. Computers were my turf, and hacking them was second nature. So, the following Monday, I loaded my backpack with 3 of my most reliable cracking programs. All I needed was 10 minutes on a teacher's machine. Opportunity struck just after lunch in the chemistry lab. The room was quiet, the terminal free. I slid into the chair, inserted my disk, and fired up the second program. Within minutes, the system buckled. Passwords spilled onto my disk like a jackpot payout. Victory! My pulse hammered with excitement. I had done it. Free gas for 6 glorious months. Back home, I couldn't wait to test them. One by one, I tried the stolen keys until click I was in. I granted myself near-perfect attendance, nudged my GPA from a modest 3.0 up to a shiny 3.7, and basked in the glow of my own genius. Riding high, I logged off and wasted the evening surfing the web. After dinner, I phoned my buddies, bragging about my triumph and gloating over Friday night when they'd line up to fuel my car. For 2 days, I lived like a king. Then Thursday came crashing down on me like a sledgehammer. The office summoned me. Heart pounding, I walked in and froze. There sat the principal, my mother, and a uniformed cop. "Those passwords you used," the principal began flatly, no warm-up, no pleasantries, "were laced with a tracking code. Our system logs every outside connection, and your home phone number popped up in last night's sweep. I can even pull the sites you surfed afterward, if you'd like. And by the way, your grades? They never changed. The system auto-restored everything, so all you really accomplished was proving how easy it is to catch you." He turned to the officer. "This policeman is here to arrest you for tampering. Your mother is here, so she fully grasps the seriousness of your actions. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Terror ripped through me, and before I could think, it all tumbled out: the gas, the bet, the dress, every humiliating detail, spilling like one long, panicked confession. Then silence. I watched them huddle in the corner, my life, my future, being whispered about without me. Finally, Mom turned back, her face unreadable. "Brandon," she said softly, "they've agreed to the terms of your bet with a small adjustment. Unless you accept, the officer has no choice but to arrest you. This is a felony. Think about that. A record that will follow you forever. No voting. Job's gone before you even get the interview." My throat was dry. "What's the change?" Her hand closed gently around mine, but her smile cut like ice. "You'll still dress as a girl, but not just on weekends. You'll do it full-time, until school lets out. That's 3 months and a week. You'll attend classes as a girl, starting Monday. Between now and then, you and I will make the transformation. Any questions?" The room spun. Me, living as a girl? Surviving even one day seemed impossible. But 3 months. My eyes darted to the cop, ready to cuff me if I refused, then to the principal, who looked grimly satisfied. There was no escape, jail or skirts, and skirts were the lesser hell. "Nobody will know, right?" I asked, clinging to some sliver of hope. "Everyone," the principal corrected, "will know, Brandon. I'll have to explain, so no one else gets bright ideas like yours. Still, if you look convincing enough, I'll hold back the announcement. That way, if the truth comes out, it'll be because of you, not me. Fair enough?" Fair? Not even close. But the walls were closing in, and my choices were gone. "I'll take her home now," Mom announced, using the word her with unsettling ease. "On Monday morning, she and I will return for your approval. Perhaps her father will join us. He'll certainly have questions." "That's fine, madam," the principal said. "I'll look forward to meeting my newest co-ed." Mom took my arm and marched me out. She drove us home fast, stone-faced, silent. That silence scared me more than shouting ever could. Her jaw was tight, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. I knew then I was in for the storm of my life. I didn't realize just how furious Mom was until we walked through the front door. Without raising her voice, she sent me straight to my room and barked, "Strip everything. Not one stitch left on you when I come in." Her finger stabbed toward the door, and I knew better than to argue. Shaking, I obeyed. Clothes piled in a heap on the chair, I sat bare on the edge of my bed, waiting for the hammer to fall. When the door creaked open, both of my parents stepped inside. Dad stood stiff, but it was Mom's eyes that froze me. She had that cold, sharp expression that cut deeper than any shout. "Stand up," Dad ordered. I scrambled to my feet, one hand instinctively covering myself. His disappointment carried more weight than anger. "Your mother and I are ashamed of your choices. While I don't agree with the exact punishment, I can see the irony you were willing to risk all this for a few fake grades and free gas. What truly stings is that you chose cheating over hard work. So in addition to living out the terms of your bet, you'll have a strict curfew, mandatory study hours, and extra chores. As for the dresses, you made that part of the deal, so you'll live with it. Maybe a few months in heels will make you think twice before pulling a stunt like this again." Without another word, he turned and left, leaving Mom to handle the rest. She pulled a measuring tape from her pocket like it was a weapon. Humiliation burned my skin as she recorded numbers, circling me as though I were a mannequin. When she was finished, she told me to put my clothes back on, but not to even think about leaving the house. She had shopping to do. I caught sight of myself in the mirror and nearly gagged. The reflection wasn't even human, just some awkward caricature of a girl. Ugly, pathetic. My eyes stung, and I let myself cry. But before I could bury myself in the comfort of my computer, Dad stormed back in. "Dismantle it," he said flatly. "Take it to my office. Put it back together. After that, no access. You're grounded." 2 hours later, Mom returned, bags clutched in both hands, names of trendy girls' stores flashing across them like neon signs. My stomach dropped. This was real. "Undress," she commanded. I obeyed. She pulled out a jar of cream and smeared it over my skin. It burned, reeked, made me itch until I thought I'd crawl out of my own body. When she finally allowed me to rinse it off, she stood in the bathroom doorway, making sure I shaved what little hair I had. My hair was cropped so short it was hopeless. Even I knew a wig was inevitable. She finished the job herself with a razor, then ushered me back into my room, her expression no longer stone, but still steely. "I'll help you dress for now," she said, laying out garments with calm precision. "Underwear first, then meet me at my vanity." I slid into the foreign fabric, every nerve screaming, then followed her. At the mirror, Mom's hands moved quickly, foundation, powder, shadows blended across my lids, liner sharp against my eyes, a touch of blush. When she stepped back, I barely recognized myself. The boy was already fading, and in his place, someone else. She guided me back, layering clothing piece by piece, a snug waist nipper, a slip, padded cups, a short red dress. She slid open a box of shoes, black, with what she called a short heel. Slipping them on, I stood shakily but managed to balance. Finally, she produced the wig. With a few tugs and a brush, it settled into place, transforming me in one sweep. My reflection was no longer laughable. It was unnervingly convincing. "Let's finish in the kitchen," Mom said. My legs wobbled as I followed, the skirt swishing higher than I ever wanted, the hem flirting dangerously with exposure. At the table, Mom worked like a professional. She filed, shaped, and built my nails up until they gleamed with a plum-red gloss. The layers hardened, sealing me into this identity with each stroke. When she was done, she studied me with a small, satisfied smile. These acrylics won't come off easily. That means you're locked in no way back to dressing like a boy. Now, she said, folding her arms, we need a name. Do you have one in mind, or shall I choose for you? My mind went blank, panic roaring in my ears. Every instinct screamed to protest, but the mirror told a different story. A pair of unfamiliar eyes stared back at me, framed by lashes, lips touched with color. The boy was gone. In his place, a girl with striking legs and a fragile, unsettling kind of beauty. Bree seems like the obvious choice, Mom said, her voice calm but firm. Everyone calls you that anyway. You can keep it, or, if you prefer, choose something softer, more feminine. I swallowed hard. I might as well stick with Bree. The whole school will know about this the minute someone figures it out, probably 20 minutes after I walk through the door. As you wish, Mom replied smoothly, as if we'd just agreed on what to have for dinner. Then she nodded toward the front door. Go get the mail! The words hit me like a slap. The mailbox was across the street, and this would be my first time outside dressed like this. I froze at the doorknob until Mom's voice cut through my hesitation. Now, Bree. There was no escape. I stepped outside, the short red dress feeling indecently flimsy, the slip whispering against my legs. Every step toward that box was torture. My mind screamed at me to run, grab the envelopes, and dash back. But the swish of the skirt reminded me that one wrong move might flash the whole neighborhood. I walked slowly, deliberately, praying no one was watching. It was the longest 5 minutes of my life. When I handed Mom the mail, she actually laughed. We'll have to go shopping, Bree. I only bought you one outfit, and you'll need more today or tomorrow. Her tone made it sound like the most normal errand in the world. I tried to sink into the couch and forget everything, but the doorbell rang. From the kitchen, Mom called, "Get it, Bree!" My heart nearly stopped when I opened the door. "Well, aren't you the prettiest little thing?" Grandma Evelyn beamed, stepping inside as if she'd known all along. "And what's your name, dear?" "It's still Bree, Grandma," I stammered. "Perfect. Easy to remember." She gave me a quick once-over, then smiled. "Now let me see you properly." She looked me up and down. Not a flicker of surprise, just quiet appraisal. Then, casually, she asked how many outfits I had. I admitted this was the only one, and she nodded before wandering off to talk with Mom, leaving me gaping. From the living room, I heard them. "Bree looks adorable, Laura. How long are you planning to keep him like this?" "Until school lets out," Mom answered, matter-of-factly. "He was lucky I talked the principal into letting me handle it this way." After that other boy hacked into his school's system, the laws changed. Bree could have been arrested. Maybe we could have fought it, but what lesson would he learn? He made that bet. Dressing like a girl was part of it, so now he'll live with it. Mark and I don't love this, but it was this, or a conviction. After a few days in dresses, he'll probably do anything to get out of them. And if he doesn't? Grandma pressed. What if Bree likes it? What if he decides he wants to keep being a girl? Mom scoffed lightly. That's unlikely, Mom. We'll cross that bridge if it comes. Don't be so sure, Grandma warned. He's tough on the outside, but underneath he's soft. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if he decides he doesn't want to give up the skirts. Mom sighed. Maybe, but I think you're wrong. Their voices faded, but I couldn't stop staring at my legs. Nylon smooth, bare halfway up my thighs. Every time my fingers brushed the fabric, a shiver ran up my spine. It scared me how good it felt. When they returned, Grandma kissed me on the cheek and left. Mom sat across from me, her expression unreadable. Bree, listen. If you put your mind to it, you can get through this. It feels cruel, I know. But think about it, every girl in your school wears skirts and dresses. No one mocks them for it. If you choose to act like a fool, you'll be treated like one. But if you dress and carry yourself like the rest of the girls, the kids will stop bothering you. Life will go on. She leaned forward. We'll buy you some clothes. Not a lot, just enough. I'll even let you pick them out. You know what girls your age wear better than I do. But there's one rule: no slacks, no jeans. Do you agree? I thought about it. If I fought this, I'd be doomed from day one. But if I leaned into it, played the part, maybe I could slide under the radar and get through until summer. Running away wasn't an option. Neither was the darker escape that flickered in my thoughts. I nodded. Mom's face softened just a little. Good, then we'll start now. She disappeared into her room and came back with a purse. You'll need this. Let's go. 10 minutes later, we were in the car heading to the mall. Mom laid out the plan with the same tone she'd use for groceries. What you need most are bras and underwear, another pair of shoes, a few skirts, a couple of dresses. We'll also look for makeup that matches your coloring, a starter kit, some jewelry, maybe earrings. It depends on the cost, but we'll get the basics. And just like that, I was on my way to shop for a new life. There was nothing left to say, so I didn't. I just went along with Mom, numb, hollow, and resigned. The drive to the mall felt endless, but at least school was still in session, which meant no chance of running into my friends. Small mercies. Mom wasted no time. Straight to the lingerie section of the biggest department store, straight to the bras. She announced I was a 34A, then began sifting through the racks with a casualness that made my skin crawl. Just as she settled on one, her eyes lifted, and I caught the grin. I followed her gaze to the sign. Breast forms, all sizes, new and improved, now on sale. Before I could even groan, her hand was on mine, guiding me to the counter. The saleswoman leaned in with a bright smile, chatting with Mom as though this were an everyday purchase. When she suggested Mom try them on, Mom laughed and nodded toward me. They're for her. Bree's just so flat-chested, and it's making her unhappy. Do you have something in an A? The woman beamed. Of course! If you'll come with me, I'll show you. If she likes them, she can wear them out of the store. Humiliation scorched me from head to toe. In the fitting room, I stripped off the blouse and the beanbag-filled top Mom had stuffed me into earlier. The woman didn't blink. She simply chose a pair, checked the shade, then without asking, smoothed them onto my chest with glue that reeked of chemicals. There we go, honey, she said cheerfully. Long-lasting adhesive. You won't need to worry for at least 4 months. 4 months. My stomach dropped into my shoes. I looked at Mom, then at the mirror, and nearly fainted. The forms sat perfectly, rising from my chest like they'd always been there. I had perky A-cups real enough to fool anyone. The woman grinned. Not even your boyfriend would know the difference. I fought the blouse back on, struggling around my new curves. Then Mom handed me something that made my heart sink further. Padded panties. Wider hips, fuller bottom. With a sigh, I slipped them on. A new body stared back from the mirror, and I wasn't sure which part of me was left. Mom measured again, satisfied now that she had the right numbers. By the time we left the store, I was loaded down. 3 skirts, 2 dresses, bras, nightgowns, slips, underwear. Next came the shoe store. Pink-trimmed gym shoes, taupe flats, classic black. Then costume jewelry, a fresh ear piercing, cheap earrings, necklaces, even a hairband. At a makeup counter, a stranger wiped off Mom's handiwork and rebuilt me from scratch. She didn't ask, didn't flinch, just worked. 30 minutes later, the mirror showed a girl so polished, so effortlessly convincing, I hated the wave of relief that hit me. Attending school like this might actually be survivable. Worse still, I looked good. Perfume, lotions, bath oils, Mom piled them into the bag, murmuring about skincare routines like this was all natural. And somewhere along the way, her tone changed. She wasn't just enforcing punishment anymore. She was enjoying herself shopping with the daughter she'd never had. By the time we got home, she was nearly giddy. Try them on for me, Brie. I want to see how pretty you look. I couldn't refuse. Part of me wanted to see too. So I dragged the bags upstairs, slipped into the first outfit, and almost collapsed. A pink pleated skirt, mid-thigh, a snug white top that ended just shy of my belly button, clinging to my new chest. Thin enough that the bra peeked through if I moved wrong. I added the flats and crept downstairs, praying no one would ever. The door opened. Mom's voice rang out cheerfully. "Gentlemen, this is the new Brie." There they were, my buddies, staring. Mom's words hit harder than any fist. "As you can see, she's completing her part of your bet with one small change. She'll be attending school with you until the end of the year." Their eyes stayed locked on me, but Mom wasn't finished. "Listen carefully. Every one of you nearly wound up in the same position. You'll make sure Brie isn't bullied or treated unfairly. You will treat her as you would any young lady. Am I clear?" No one dared answer. She looked each of them in the eye until they dropped their gazes. Then she turned to me. "Go out on the patio." The silence was suffocating as I walked ahead of them, my skirt swishing with every step. Now it was do or die. If I didn't convince them I was serious, that I could pull this off, I'd be dead in the water before Monday ever came. As I rose from my seat, the room went dead silent. I could feel dozens of eyes drilling into me, waiting for me to trip, to falter, to prove I didn't belong in the outfit I was wearing. My skirt brushed against my thighs as I made my way to the board, each step measured, careful, like I was balancing on a wire. My new curves shifted under the blouse, and I swore the whisper of fabric sounded louder than the pencils scratching across desks. The problem on the board was easy, something I would have breezed through any other day, but my hands trembled as I picked up the chalk. My reflection in the blackboard caught me off guard. Pink blouse, tan skirt, my wig framing a face that was no longer mine. I wrote out the equation as quickly and neatly as I could, then turned, expecting ridicule, maybe laughter. Instead, the room stayed hushed. The teacher gave a polite nod. "Correct. Thank you, Brie. You may sit down." Brie. Hearing my name spoken like that, so casually, nearly knocked the breath out of me. It wasn't Brandon, not even close. And the worst part? Nobody laughed. Nobody said a word. I made my way back to my seat, sitting carefully, remembering Mom's lectures about how girls never plop down, how skirts demanded grace. My legs trembled as I folded them properly beneath my desk. Whispers rippled behind me, not cruel, not mocking, but curious. Curious was bad enough. The rest of math blurred past me, my stomach churning, nerves stretched to breaking. By the time the bell rang, I was sweating under my blouse. The hallway was worse, packed, loud, merciless. Heads turned, voices dropped to murmurs, then rose to laughs, not cruel laughter yet, more stunned amusement, like they couldn't believe what they were seeing. I kept my eyes forward, purse clutched tight against my side, each step echoing in my ears. I made it to my next class, but not before I heard Tyler's voice somewhere behind me, low but clear enough. "Damn, he really does look like a girl." The word he stung, but what scared me more was the unspoken truth he hadn't sounded disgusted. He'd sounded impressed. I slid into my next seat, my heart hammering. The day had only just begun, and I wasn't sure if I'd survive it or if, by some twisted miracle, I actually could. If anyone in that classroom had been slow on the uptake, my stammering answer erased all doubt. The snickers rolled in from behind me, sharp and merciless. My cheeks burned, but before it could spiral, the teacher snapped at them, reminding everyone this was a punishment, not a joke, and the room fell into a sullen hush. Still, when the bell rang and I had to stand again, my legs felt like they were moving through mud. I scooped up my books, nearly left my purse behind, and only retrieved it after the teacher called me back. The walk to my next class was a gauntlet of stares, whispers, and twice fingers pinching me as I passed. By the time lunch arrived, I was unraveling. I sat alone at a corner table, grateful for the brief pocket of silence, even though it stung that Tyler and Ryan avoided me entirely. By the last bell, I was brittle and desperate to escape. The 6-block walk home stretched before me like a minefield. I trailed behind a group of kids, Ryan among them, but no one slowed, no one called back. I walked alone. It happened 3 blocks from home. 4 skinheads appeared, circling like wolves. They didn't waste words. Fists and boots fell in a blur. Their insults cut deeper than their blows. Faggot, queer, freak. A kick to the groin knocked the breath and the world out of me, darkness swallowing everything. When I woke again, it was in a hospital bed, body wrecked. 4 broken ribs, a shattered arm, gashes sewn shut with nearly 30 stitches, hearing gone from my left ear, a concussion fogging everything. But the worst news came in a single sentence. The kick had crushed my testicles. There was no undoing that damage. The breast forms and acrylic nails, so permanent just days ago, were stripped away by the surgeons in order to treat me. I should have felt relief, but I didn't. All I felt was rage. Dad's face loomed over me, twisted with anger, not at them, but at me. "What did you do to entice those boys?" he demanded. If I'd had the strength, I'd have hit him. Instead, my hoarse voice erupted, raw and ragged, telling him exactly what I thought. How dare he accuse me of inviting this, when all I'd done was survive the humiliation they'd forced on me? My chest heaved, fury vibrating through every injury, until a nurse stormed in, sedated me, and shoved him out. I drifted into sleep with a crooked smile. For once, I'd stood up to him. For once, I'd said what needed to be said. The next day, they all came, Mom, Dad, the principal, even the cop. Their apologies rang hollow. The verdict was unanimous. My punishment suspended, my boy clothes returned as soon as I healed. But I wasn't going to let them win that easily. I looked straight at Mom, then at the principal. "No?" Mom blinked. "No what, dear?" "No, I won't go back as myself. I'm going back as Bree." The room stiffened. I fixed my gaze on the principal. "Do you plan to arrest the boys I named?" "You said there wasn't enough evidence. Yet here I am broken." "Funny how your own son's a skinhead. Is that why you're too scared to act? Afraid of your own boy? Afraid of his friends? I thought school was supposed to be safe." Dad opened his mouth, and I cut him off. "And you? You said I enticed them. Do you believe that? Do you think I asked for this?" His silence told me everything. Then I turned my fire on Mom. "And you? You dressed me in skirts shorter than most of the girls in school wear. You wanted me noticeable. You wanted me bait. And someone took the bait. Congratulations, you all got what you wanted." I sank back against the pillows, exhausted but unbroken. "So, here's the deal. Put my girl clothes back in the closet. Because when I leave this hospital, I'm going back as Bree just like you told me to. And when it happens again, maybe then you'll finally understand." The nurse had barely left when the cop leaned back in his chair, a grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. "What?" I snapped, half expecting him to pile on like everyone else. "Nothing," he said. "Well, almost nothing. Those boys who jumped you, we know them. They're troublemakers through and through. But without your father or the principal pressing charges, our hands are tied. We can't move forward." "That's just perfect," I muttered bitterly. He studied me a moment longer. "You do realize, if you go back to school dressed as a girl, you'll be painting a target on yourself again, right? They'll come for you." "Yes," I admitted, jaw tight. "But I'll be ready this time." "You can't protect yourself from people like that. They'll wait, pick their moment, and hit you when you least expect it. They might even kill you." I looked him dead in the eye. "Then you wouldn't need my father's complaint, would you?" His grin faded. "You're sure this is the best idea?" "Probably not," I said, my voice raw but steady. "I don't even want to dress as a girl. But if I don't, then they win. And they'll still come after me anyway. Dressing up means they'll know it didn't work." He tilted his head. This isn't really about them, is it, Bree? It's about your parents. Your father's a macho type, anyone who isn't like him. He writes off as weak or gay. You in a dress shakes his whole world. Why provoke him? A crooked smile tugged at my lips. Because you're right. For the first time in my life, I shouted back at him. He didn't know what to do. He'll explode when I get home, but I don't care anymore. This isn't about him, it's about me. If I back down, if I let those punks stomp me into silence, then I'm nothing. I'd rather keep walking into that school in a skirt than give them the satisfaction. The cop shook his head, half impressed, half worried. Stubborn kid, he muttered, then stood to leave. I drifted into sleep, grinning, knowing I'd rattled more than just Dad that day. When I woke, Mom was perched by my bed, waiting like she'd been rehearsing what to say. I met her eyes and kept silent until she squirmed. The cop says Dad refused to press charges, I finally said, my voice flat. Great. So glad his reputation's still shiny. Now leave me alone. Mom hesitated. He was afraid. I barked a bitter laugh. Afraid? The great macho man himself? Afraid he'd wake up one day and want to try on a dress? Please. All he cares about is what other people think. He doesn't give a damn about me, or maybe even you. That's not true, she said quickly, almost desperately. He doesn't know how to show it. He loves you, Bree. He just has a hard time admitting it, because that means giving in. And giving in isn't his way. Yeah, I know his way. My way or the highway. But this time, he doesn't get his way. I'm going back to school as Bree, and I'll stay Bree until I decide otherwise. He can either deal with it or I'll go live with Grandma Evelyn. At least she won't breathe down my neck every second. Mom's voice wavered. And me? What about me? I didn't want this either. I never thought it would come to this. I thought you'd get teased, not beaten half to death. Then why the short skirts? I shot back. Why the dresses that barely touched mid-thigh? You knew what girls at school actually wear, but you didn't buy me one thing that would help me blend in. You set me up, Mom. You and Dad both. And now Dad just lets me get mauled and blames me for it. He's useless. I'm done with him. Her eyes glistened, but I didn't care. She'd earned the sting of those words. Both of them had. My rage had simmered into something colder, sharper determination. I wasn't going to bow to the skinheads. I wasn't going to let Dad intimidate me. The only weapon I had left was defiance, and I'd wield it with a dress. The bitter twist was timing. By the time the doctors released me, school would already be out. If I kept my vow, it meant summer as Bree, and probably longer. Mom sat quietly, eyes red, as I lay there mending. Hours later, a doctor entered, his face carefully composed. He pulled up a chair. Good news and bad news, he said gently. The good news, you're healing well. The bad news, the damage to your testicles was total. We had to remove them to prevent complications. That means you won't be able to father children. The words slammed into me like fresh blows. He continued before I could breathe. On top of that, at your age, with the trauma you've suffered, your testosterone levels will fall sharply. Without it, your body will shift toward feminine traits. Not drastically, but there will be changes, softer skin, less muscle mass, even slight breast development. I stared at him, stunned. All the fights, the shouting, the humiliation, none of it mattered now. Biology had made the choice for me. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't sure whether I felt terror or relief. Like what? I demanded, bracing myself. The doctor met my stare without flinching. Well, your breasts may begin to grow on their own. Your hips could broaden. Your skin will smooth and remain mostly hairless. You may also notice a reduction or complete lack of beard growth. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The irony was staggering. The very beating I'd endured for being forced into a dress was now going to make my body naturally more feminine. The doctor didn't understand what was so funny, but that was fine. He didn't need to. I can prescribe medication. he went on carefully, to replace your natural testosterone. 5 milligrams a day should be enough to stabilize you. I turned to Mom, locked eyes with her, then shook my head. No, having a hairless body, wider hips, and maybe even breasts will make it easier to prove my point. I can always take the pills later, once everyone's learned their lesson. Mom said nothing. The doctor raised his brows. The changes may be more than just a little. You understand that, don't you? Sure, Doc. I understand. Just hold off on that prescription for now. I've got something to prove. He nodded and left, leaving Mom and me alone. She moved to the chair by my bed, silent, then reached out and took my hand. For 20 long minutes, she just sat there, fingers curled around mine, until she finally spoke. The doctor says you'll start developing like a girl. I suppose that means your father won't have much to say about it. After all, it's the result of your injuries. He can hardly hold that against you. I snorted. He'll try, Mother. You know it as well as I do. If I start to grow breasts, he'll go ballistic. He'll accuse me of every sin under the sun. That's why I'm calling Grandma Evelyn. I want to stay with her, and I want you to say it's okay. Otherwise, I'll call the paper and tell them everything. Let's see how the principal, Dad, and you look when it's all out there. You can't do that, you're not old enough. I've already been told I am, and I will unless you call Grandma Evelyn and let me talk to her. In this room, alone. Her voice faltered. Your father isn't going to like this, Bree. I don't care anymore, I snapped. I hope he realizes what he's done, but I doubt he ever will. I don't want to hurt you, Mom, but you're the only one. Now, will you let me stay with Grandma Evelyn? Mom's shoulders slumped. I'll arrange it, Bree. I'll call her and have her stop by. Grandma Evelyn arrived later that afternoon. I told her everything, the doctor's words, my father's refusal to press charges, Mom's role in dressing me like bait, and even the cop's suggestion about going to the press. I didn't sugarcoat a thing. She listened, shocked and furious in equal measure, and by the end, she insisted I come live with her. I didn't even have to ask. 2 weeks later, when I was released, it was Grandma Evelyn, not my parents, waiting to take me home. She let me heal in peace, feeding me, letting me sleep, giving me space. A week passed before I could walk without searing pain. My ribs mended, the bandages came off, and slowly, I felt whole again. Sort of. I noticed the changes too, the hair on my legs thinning, arms growing smoother, my body softening in ways I couldn't ignore. One afternoon, she handed me a suitcase. Your mother sent your things, she said gently. On top was an envelope. Beneath it, all of my girl clothes. I opened the letter. Bree, your father is devastated by your decision to stay with Grandma Evelyn. I told him what the doctor said about your condition, though not about the pills that could restore you. As much as he hates the idea of you developing like a girl, he knows it isn't your fault. He says he won't hold it against you. I've enclosed a check for $3,000. Use it to buy a wardrobe you feel is appropriate. Love, Mom. I crumpled it in my fist. Wouldn't hold it against me? What did he think that beating was? Some kind of pep talk? I tossed the letter aside and dug through the clothes. All familiar except one. Still in a bag, I pulled out a simple shirtwaist dress, knee-length. I hung it on the back of my door. It took hours, but finally I dressed everything, from underwear and padded panties, to pantyhose, breast forms, makeup, and wig. I slid the dress over it all, added lipstick and perfume, and stared at my reflection. For the first time, I didn't look like a caricature. I looked like a normal girl. When I walked into the family room, Grandma Evelyn's eyes widened. Oh my! You're much prettier than the last time I saw you. Come, sit by me, dear. Her voice was warm, unshaken, accepting. My tension eased as she peppered me with gentle questions. When I told her about the letter and the check, she smiled and asked if I'd like to go shopping the next day. We can stop by my salon too, she added. See if we can do something with your own hair. Something cracked inside me then. All the stress, the anger, the fear, it surged up and spilled out in tears I couldn't stop. I collapsed into her arms, sobbing against her chest, while she held me tight. For the first time in weeks, I felt safe. Grandma Evelyn never let go of me until I was calm again. Just sitting there, breathing in her steady warmth, it struck me that maybe she was right. I couldn't just carry my anger around like a weapon forever. If I wanted Mom to really hear me, maybe I'd have to let her in, even just a little. The truth was, I never wanted this. Never wanted to be a girl. But Mom had forced me into it. And worse, she'd dressed me in a way that made sure I'd stand out, that I'd be teased, even targeted. She couldn't have known it would go as far as that beating, but she also hadn't lifted a finger to press charges. Evelyn told me gently that if I was serious about shaping my future, I might need to include Mom in my transformation, if only so she could see firsthand what she'd helped create. The doctor had told me privately that my body was already shifting. The tingling under my skin, the swelling in my chest, it wasn't in my imagination. I was on the path to growing fuller breasts, maybe even a figure not so different from Mom's. And pills or not, it might not stop. It could only slow down. So I made my choice. No pills. If this was going to happen, let it happen now. Better to face it than drag it out. Only Grandma Evelyn knew that choice, and for now, I wanted to keep it that way. Not yet, I told her when she suggested telling Mom. I want to grow a bit more first, get some proper clothes, then I'll talk. The next day, we set out. Shopping with Evelyn was nothing like with Mom. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Skirts, blouses, suits, lingerie, perfume, shoes that made me stand taller, jewelry that caught the light, even a swimsuit. By the time we carried it all out, I had more than clothes, I had an arsenal. Then came the salon. My real hair was brushing my collar now, longer on top. Awkward, but workable. The stylist tugged off the wig and smiled. This'll be easy. I let her take over. Blonde, of course, blonde. If I was making a statement, I wanted it to roar. She shaped it, framed my face, and when I saw myself in the mirror, I actually gasped. The girl staring back wasn't a shadow or a disguise, she was there. The eyebrows came next, wax sharp and fast. Then the upper lip painful, but worth it. I walked out with my hair styled, nails glossy, brows perfect, lips smooth. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was playing dress-up. I felt like I was real. That's when I saw her. Mom, waiting alone by a potted fern. "You look lovely, Bree," she said softly. "Yeah, thanks." My voice was clipped, sharp. "You know," she tried again, "it's a mother's job to help her daughter as she grows in life." I almost laughed in her face. "Some help you were. Your kind of help got me beaten half to death." "That was tragic, Bree. Nobody thought that would happen, you know that." I stared at her, biting back all the venom that wanted to spill. Evelyn's advice echoed in my head. Let her in, just a little. Mom took a small breath. "Let me come with you. We can have a fun day, talk, clear the air." I narrowed my eyes. "I buy what I want, Mom, not what you want. Got it?" "That's fine, dear." She smiled faintly. "Now, let's find Evelyn." We walked side by side, oddly in sync, the way she'd coached me months ago. Maybe it was muscle memory, maybe something else. We passed shops until she nudged us into a lingerie boutique. I touched satin, lace, corsets, slips. She vanished, then returned with a bag. I didn't ask. Later, in a dress shop, I chose my own pieces and paid for them myself. When I stepped back outside, I caught a conversation, Mom and Evelyn standing together, voices low. I ducked into a rack of dresses, ears straining. "She's almost a full A cup now," Evelyn said. "Her hips too. She has nearly the same figure you did at her age." "Then why did she buy a B cup top?" Mom asked. "Because she'll need it before long. Didn't you go from an A to a B almost overnight?" I froze. Evelyn wasn't wrong. I could feel the swelling every morning. Mom's voice wavered. Mark wants her to come home. He says it doesn't matter how she dresses anymore. Bree doesn't trust him, and I don't blame her. Evelyn shot back. He hurt her deeply, and that doesn't just vanish. Tell him not to get his hopes up. I'll speak to her. That was my cue. I walked out casually, pretending I'd heard nothing. The three of us finished the mall together: shoes, nightgowns, robes, pro makeup. When I saw my reflection afterward, I didn't look like a teenager anymore. I looked like a woman in her 20s, complete. At the food court, I spotted Tyler and Ryan. Their eyes locked on me, confusion first, then dawning recognition when they saw Mom at my side. They looked away quickly, pretending I didn't exist. It didn't sting this time. They'd abandoned me at the hospital. I owed them nothing. Mom said twice, before she left, that I looked beautiful. Evelyn just smiled knowingly as we sat together, bags at our feet. And for the first time, I believed it. There was no trace of the boy I used to be. By the time I slipped into that dress, zipped it, and smoothed it over my hips, I knew I'd crossed a line that couldn't be undone. The mirror didn't show some awkward boy in borrowed clothes anymore. It showed a woman polished, deliberate, complete. The corselet lifted and shaped my chest into a proud curve. The trim waist flared into balanced hips, and the satin draped over me like it belonged there. I turned, checking every angle, tugging once at the hem, adjusting the neckline until it framed me just right. My breasts pushed together in a sharp line of cleavage that made even me blink. I added the belt, slipped on the heels, and let the click of them on the floor remind me of the power I'd earned. The earrings glinted as I fastened them, the handbag hanging perfectly from my wrist. This wasn't rebellion anymore, it was a declaration. On Saturday night, Dad wasn't going to meet his son across that table. He was going to meet Bree, full, undeniable, unstoppable. And whether he chose to break or bend, the choice was finally his, not mine. Grandma Evelyn knocked, peeked in, and let out a soft gasp. "Oh, Bree," she whispered, her eyes shining. "He's not ready for this. But it's exactly what he needs to see." I smiled, calm in a way I hadn't been for months. "Saturday, Grandma. By the time we leave the Willow, he'll either finally face who I am, or he'll lose me for good." And for the first time, instead of dread, I felt anticipation. The music and the soft clink of glasses filled the silence that followed Mom's words. For once, it wasn't me who had to push back, it was her. She sat straighter than I'd seen in years, her eyes locked on Dad, steady and unflinching. "Bree is right," she continued, her voice calm but edged with steel. "You've ruled this house with your temper for far too long. I let it go. I let you dictate, because I told myself that was just who you were. But watching Bree watching what you let happen to her has made me realize I can't excuse it anymore. If she comes home, she will be respected. And so will I. Or you will be gone." Dad's face darkened, his jaw working like a machine clamped too tight. He wanted to explode. I could see it, the red flush creeping up his neck, the twitch in his hands, but he didn't. Not here, not now, not with eyes on us, and a daughter who had turned the tables on him. I leaned forward, resting my hands lightly on the tablecloth. "Mom's right, Dad. You're seeing the result of your choices, not mine. I didn't do this to myself, you and Mom did. You set the terms, you stood by when I got hurt, and now you're looking at the consequence. I'm not ashamed, not anymore. I am Bree, I'm a woman, and if you can't handle that, then that's on you." For a moment, he just stared at me. Then he reached for his glass, drank deeply, and said nothing. The line of his mouth was still rigid, but his silence was louder than any threat he could have made. Grandma Evelyn, regal in her royal blue, finally spoke. "Mark, you'd better listen carefully. You've lost control. You don't hold the reins anymore. Bree has carved out her place, and Laura has found her voice. You can either adapt and be part of this family, or you can cling to your pride and watch it all slip away. The weight of her words hung heavy in the air. I shifted back in my chair, my heart pounding but steady. For the first time in a long time, I felt like the balance of power had shifted. Not in my favor alone, but in ours. Mom and I together, Evelyn at our side. Dad wasn't going to change overnight, but tonight he had been forced to see me, to see us, as we truly were. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the broken boy he had tried to shame. I felt like Bree, the woman I had become, whether he accepted it or not. Dad's credit card paid the bill, but it was Mom who carried us out of that restaurant with her head high, not him. None of us spoke on the drive to Evelyn's, but the silence wasn't heavy, it was decisive. Something had shifted. Living with Grandma Evelyn gave me space to heal, and slowly Mom began to visit more often. She and I started rebuilding something new, something stronger than we'd ever had before. She listened now. She stood up for herself too, just as she had that night, and I realized she wasn't only defending me, she was learning to defend herself. When school started again, I enrolled somewhere new. Whispers followed me at first, but I made friends, real ones. Chloe was the first I trusted with my truth, and she laughed not because she mocked me, but because she thought the rumors were easier to live with than the messy truth. "Let them think you were changed by surgery," she said. "Everyone already believes it. You're a girl, Bree. That's all they see now." She wasn't wrong. The trial was brutal. The defense tried to twist me into a caricature, blaming the way I looked for the violence I endured. But the judge wasn't having it. He tore into those lawyers, stripped their arguments bare, and the boys were sentenced 18 months to 3 years each. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was justice enough. Afterward, the judge asked to speak to my family. Dad stood there, red-faced and stiff, until Mom quietly announced she'd filed for divorce. He didn't fight, didn't shout, didn't even argue. He just left. For good. The years that followed were quieter. I stayed with Evelyn, who gave me patience, wisdom, and strength. Mom moved into a small apartment and became her own person at last. And me? The boob fairy, as Evelyn liked to joke, came twice. My body bloomed into curves I once thought I'd never have. By the time I turned 18, the doctor was ready to schedule the last step of my transition. I don't question myself anymore. I don't chase my father's approval or fear his disapproval. I am Bree. I am a woman, and that's enough. Dad never calls. Mom and I, though we see each other nearly every day, we're not mother and son anymore. We're mother and daughter. And for the first time, that feels exactly right. As for Dad, he can live with his choices, or he can go to hell.